Good evening, children. I hope everyone are doing fine. Let us continue with the chapter reproduction. So today we will be studying about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So let's begin. Reproduction. So I said this in previous concept also. Based on body organization, the reproduction in organisms are of two types. So one we studied about asexual reproduction. So today we will be studying about sexual reproduction, definition for that, and also sexual reproduction in case of flowering plants. Coming to sexual reproduction, by now we know that reproduction causes variation. And these variations are due to the errors in DNA copying mechanism. Because of these variation, the progeny produced are slightly different from the parents. But the process of producing variation is very slow. So to speed up this process, an alternative can be the two individuals can be combined and produce a progeny. Thus, more variation will be found in the progeny. And moreover, these will be normal variations. And we know that when two individuals are involved in reproduction, this type of reproduction is known as sexual reproduction. But there is a problem in this type of reproduction as two individuals combine and form one individual. So in the individual formed, there will be two copies of DNA or two sets of chromosomes present, so that will be double of the chromosomes, so that is present in a parental type. Hence, to solve this problem in case of multicellular organism, there are specialized type of cells. These cells have half number of chromosomes or half number of DNA, and these cells are known as germ cells in case of male. So in case of male, it is called as sperm, and in case of female, it is called ovum. When these two germ cells from two individuals combine during sexual reproduction, it results in the formation of progeny. So with exact number of chromosomes like same as parents. So hence, sexual reproduction is important to speed up the process of variation and to have more chance of survival. First, let us understand the parts of a flower. Flowers are said to be reproductive organs in case of plants. So let us know each part of flowers. First is pedicel, next sepal, petal, next is filament and anther. Together are said to be stamen. These are the reproductive organ of a male. Next is stigma, style, ovary, ovule. These four together are said to be pistil, that is a female reproductive organ. Next is a receptacle. So these are all the overall parts of a hibiscus flower. There are two types of flowers. One is unisexual flowers and the other one is bisexual flowers. So what is unisexual flowers? They have either stamen or carpel in them. Example, papaya, watermelon, etc. Coming to bisexual flowers, they have both stamen and carpels in them. Example, hibiscus, mustard, etc. Let us study in detail of different parts of a flower. First, let us know about sepals. Sepals are green in color. They protect the flower. They hold all part of flower and they protect it. Here you can see the part of sepal, or it is also called as calyx. Okay. Next is petals. These petals are attractive in color, which can attract insects for pollination. And you see different types of color in case of different plants. And next is stamen. As I said, stamens are the male reproductive part. It consists of anther and filament. This filament holds the anther, where anther consists of pollen grains. These pollen grains are yellowish in color. Anther and filament are together called as stamen. Next is carpel. Carpel is a female reproductive part of a flower. It consists of three parts. One is stigma, ovary, and style. So stigma is meant to hold the pollen grains. It is a sticky end of a flower where it holds the pollen grains. Ovary consists of ovules, that is eggs, which helps to fuse with the pollen. And next is a style, that is a longitudinal form you can see here, which holds the stigma. So this is about carpel. So to reproduce a new flower or to form a zygote, there has to be a fusion between a male and a female reproductive cells, isn't it? And this occurs through pollination. So what is pollination? Transfer of pollen from stamen to stigma of the carpel is known as pollination. So here there is a transfer of pollen grains from stamen, that is a male part, to stigma of a female part, that is carpel, is known as pollination. And pollination are of two types. One is self-pollination and another one is cross-pollination. Self-pollination name itself says when pollens are transferred from stamen to stigma of same flower. In the picture you can notice. So when pollen grains are transferred from a stamen to stigma of same flower, then it is said to be self-pollination. Wherein cross-pollination is said to be when pollen are transferred from stamen of one flower to stigma of another flower. So that is said to be cross-pollination. And this pollination is done through pollinating agents. These pollinating agents are nothing but wind, rain, as well as through animals. Okay, so these are said to be pollinating agents. Next, after pollination, how the germination of pollen on stigma take place. So this is an important diagram that you need to practice. This diagram as well as the structure of hibiscus, that is longitudinal section of hibiscus flower. So coming to germination of pollen on stigma. So after the pollen lands on a suitable stigma. So here you can see how the pollen grains are stick to stigma. So now it has to reach the female germ cell which are there in the ovary. It has to reach to the ovary to get fused together, isn't it? For this, a tube grows out of the pollen grain and travels through the style to reach the ovary. So after fusion, after getting fertilization, the zygote is formed and it divides several times to form an embryo within the ovule. The ovule develops a tough coat and is gradually converted into seed. The ovary grows rapidly and ripens to form a fruit. Meanwhile, the petals, sepal, stamen, style, and stigma may shrivel and they fall off. Okay, so this is about the germination of pollen on stigma. Now, this seed which is obtained after fertilization, which contains a future plant or embryo which develops into seedling under appropriate conditions. Okay, and this process is known as germination. The process by which a plant grows from seed and forms seedling is known as a seed germination. So here you can see, so first is a seed and this has cotyledons. You people have learnt about monocot and dicot, isn't it? So cotyledons you can see here, it is dicot wherein you can see two cotyledons, okay, and where they store food in it. So this cotyledons store food. So here you can see two parts, one is plumule and one is radicle. So when you sow the seed in a soil, This plumule develop into a shoot system and radicle will develop into root. You can remember like this, R stands for root. So radicle will develop into future root and this plumule will develop into shoot system. And next, if you sow a seed in a soil, so you can see how the radicle is developed to form a roots, and you can see here further it develops into a complete root, wherein the plumule will develop into shoot system. So this is the overall process of seed germination and also about germination. I hope everyone had followed today's concept. It's very interesting and colorful to study about the flower and their parts and the pollination process and also germination. So here I have completed with sexual reproduction in case of flowering plants. So let us look into another concept, that is about reproduction in human beings, in the next class. So children, I'll send you the worksheet along with this video. Do solve it and have a good day. See you all.